Today I am placing my eyeballs directly onto the work of Alariko, who is, by all accounts, the most artistically capable frog since George Washington himself. As I spent time digging into the work, I found that there are lots of buildings, and I also found that there's lots of reasons why they are so particularly beautiful. Here are just a few of them. One of the very first details you're going to notice about Alariko's work is the wibbly-wobbly edges of things. Each illustration is built on a simple ink outline, and the look of those contours may lead you to believe that Alariko has some kind of deep-set aversion to rulers, straight edges, and T-squares of all kinds. But the quality of these lines takes what would otherwise be a rigid form and instead takes on the qualities of an organic form. When you draw a rock or a tree, they have a structure, but the structure is at the mercy of the individual eccentricities of that form. This is one reason why a rock or a tree feels like an individual version of that species, unlike a building which can be generic or copied or plain. Alariko's buildings feel more like eccentric individuals than artificial structures. And by this method, a street scene takes on some of the natural and pleasing qualities that you might find in a scene from nature. Now, I can hardly talk about anybody's work without at least spending some time on color. Alariko utilizes a variation of what I would call the Ghibli blue and green. In a Ghibli film, you frequently see this blue sky and green grass combination, and blue and green in general is a color palette that could feel cold. But if you fine-tune those colors to a particular level of warmth and saturation, then suddenly the scene becomes bright and hopeful and optimistic. Miyazaki uses it all the time. Raphael and Perugino used it in the Italian Renaissance. And Alariko has also cracked a color recipe that makes these scenes so bright and optimistic and joyful. Sometimes darker and moody palettes are used, but we don't really have time to get into that. But as always, my favorite thing is more thematic. Alariko, by positioning and composition and value and color, successfully establishes a building not as the setting for an illustration or an image, but as the subject. Given their eccentric and individualistic construction, it's only fitting that these buildings get treated like characters, and each of these images feel like a portrait. Even as people move around the streets surrounding these buildings, our eyes are pushed into its intricate detail. Its features, its costume, its scars draw us in to investigate. Alariko bathes each scene in light that emphasizes the particularity of the moment. This is not just a building, it's a character, and it's a character that we're seeing at one particular instant of its life.